Pricing is always tricky because it is always related to perceived value. And so, there's a reason an iPhone is so expensive, and it's not necessarily because of the hardware. There are a lot of different ways to approach this, and I wouldn't say any of them are particularly gospel. If you have volume and scale, one of the value or the benefits of having that volume and scale is you can potentially A/B test. So you could take small segments and send out audience A is getting this offer, audience B, C is getting different offers, and start to get some validation there. For a higher ticket product where you don't necessarily have a huge customer base, that's a little harder because you're going to cannibalize some of the customer base in doing that testing. But this is something that SaaS companies will do a lot is, hey, we're thinking about a price change. We'll do kind of small testing. The other opportunity, and one of the opportunity that I think really leverages the relationship a creator has, is you can be quite transparent. Hey, I'm doing this thing. I want everybody's feedback. This is what's going to be included. And you will always get some, basically people always say they are willing to pay less than they likely will because they're interested in getting it for less. But actually, Jay Klaus, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, from Creator Science, such a smart guy. I love all of his content. He gave a talk at Vid Summit, a couple months ago. And when he was talking about pricing validation, I thought this is such a clever way to approach it, is to ask people 4 questions around pricing. The first being, what would make this a no-brainer? What would make this totally out of reach? What would make this a stretch, but I'd be willing? I can't remember the fourth one, but that's definitely something that we're starting to incorporate into some of our questions around pricing, because instead of getting one singular data point that you have to create some caveats around, you get 4 data points and you can infer a lot more from that. So that's something that we've already rolled out once in the 2 months since hearing Jay speak about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you can get your range of, okay, we're getting a ton of people saying that this specific number would be way out of reach, or this specific gap would be way too much. Here's kind of our sweet spot. And I do think when you have a higher ticket item, and maybe you're not, maybe 90% of your audience isn't going to buy it, it's that 10% that's going to buy a higher ticket product. You don't want to market that higher ticket thing to everybody, right? I think there's been some mistakes with people just promoting really high ticket things to everybody, and they're, people are upset. Hey, I can't afford this. There's some of that too, where you have to figure out, all right, who are we going to market this, this to?
Yeah, and to me, one thing that I think about and talk a lot about with our customers is the relative importance of this part of their business to the rest of their business. And so for a lot of creators, brand partnerships or AdSense revenue or there are these other components to their business, and the digital product business might make up 25% of their business, 30% of the business, which is significant, but it always runs the risk of damaging or impugning on other parts of the business. And so in a situation like that, where someone is over promoting a high ticket offer, it potentially damages their relationship with their audience, and then limits their ability to do brand partnerships. So we always want to kind of think about that, versus some creators where, hey, this is the digital product business is the business. This is going to be 80% of my revenue, and I'm happy to kind of sell the hell out of it because that's what I want my business to be. So, when we were talking about ideation and validation and how we go about these things, one of the things we talk about with people right away is what are your goals generally? What kind of business do you want to run? Because something like Jay Klaus's lab and membership, those are really, really compelling products, but they take a lot of work. Those are high maintenance. You kind of got to put a lot into them. Whereas some creators want to make something that is an augment to their business, kind of set it, forget it. They can, contribute, but it's build once and kind of sell forever. And figuring out what people's willingness is on that spectrum is something we try to do really early.